What's up guys, MGO here bringing you another video for this week on the MGO channel here. This week we're going to be talking about something a little bit more skeptical upon people. We're going to be talking about tattoos. So, let's get started. So this week we're talking about tattoos. Tattoos are a lot controversial depending on your beliefs, on your, what's the word I'm looking for? Traditions, religion, stuff like that. Tattoos are very controversial and tons of questions are asked about tattoos all the time. Do you like them? Do you regret them? Did it hurt? Did it cost a lot of money? Will you regret them in the future? Stuff like that happens all the time. I'm just here to clarify a bunch of questions and talk about my tattoos. Talk about the pieces on my arms, talk about the ones on my wrist, stuff like that. My tattoos, for me, they mean the world to me. I started getting tattooed when I was about 18 years old, and I'll get to that story later, but let's knock out a couple questions there. Question 1. Does it hurt? Long story short, yes, they do hurt. To put it in perspective, I've had tattoos that hurt more than others. In all honesty, I've had stomach aches and like stomach viruses that hurt more than 90% of my tattoos. There are some placements in your body, such as the inner arm on both sides, because you're so attached to your body all the time, that hurt a lot more than the other tattoos. But definitely for sure is the inside tattoos hurt. Like, the pain was incredible. It felt like someone stabbed a small knife in you and just dragged it down your body. I know that sounds a little exaggerated because no one wants to get stabbed, and very few people out in the world have been stabbed and survived to tell the story. But it just feels like they say it's a needle going in your body, piercing you, making some incision on your body, but it doesn't go too thick to the point that it's not going to heal ever. But do they hurt? Yeah, they do. They feel fairly painful, but they're not intolerable. Depending on your pain tolerance, it depends truly on your each experience. I can tell you how I feel, but to you it might be a whole other world. It could be more painful, it could be less painful. It may just be another day at the tattoo parlor for you. But for question number 1, do they hurt? Yes, they do hurt. Question number two, people ask this all the time, especially someone that doesn't have tattoos, is do you regret any, or will you regret any in the near future? I don't at all. Every tattoo I've gotten, I've thought long and hard. I never get them on a whim. I always get them with months and months of planning ahead. I started, like I said, when I'm 18. I'm 24 now, and I've gone to the tattoo parlor at least 8 times by now. And like I said, I've planned every single one, from the first one to the very last one I have planned. And I have many more, of course, planned. But of course, it takes me about 6 to 8 months to think of it, draw it out myself. 90% of my tattoos have been drawn out by myself first. My brain, my concept, my paper, my pencil. And then I take it to the tattoo artist himself, and he does a tattoo for me, as redesigns it himself, adds his touch to it, because I want to give credit to the artist as well for doing all the work he does. But I won't not regret my tattoos, not one, nor will I ever regret them, because I chose them myself. I've chosen these pieces of art to go on my body, my canvas, and I will take these to the day I die. Because once you die, you can't take them with you. They're just parts of you that represent you. So these parts of my skin, I chose to have them on myself. I wasn't forced by anyone. No one had a gun to my head. These are all free will, my choice. Kind of following into that with question 3 is, what about removal? Do you ever think about removal, and is it painful? From what I've heard, removal is more painful than getting the tattoo. So as I will tell anyone, think about your tattoos before you get them. They are fairly painful to get, but it's more painful to remove. Plan smart, plan well, give yourself time, think of placement, especially think of placement. That's very important. I've been in conversations with a few of my tattoo buddies, and lots of them have said placement is key. And that's extremely true. You don't want to go ahead and get a picture of a flower stamped right here, and later on you regret it, because you're just like, you love the tattoo, but then you're like, oh man, I should have put it on my shoulder or on my leg or something, because then you have to work around that tattoo, and that kind of stinks when you have a vision in the future and you're just like, I see this on my arm, and then you're like, wait a minute, I already have something there. So when it comes to removal, I will never personally remove a tattoo. I don't even think of any cover-ups I want to do, as of the moment at least. But I will not be removing tattoos, and I will keep them on my body forever, because they represent me and who I am, and they become a part. People always ask me with question number 4, do your parents care? The parents story is a funny story, at least for me. I'm gonna tell you guys the origin of my tattoo story to go along with this corresponding story that I'm about to tell you now. So the way that the parent story goes for me is my parents are both together. They've been together since we were kids. They never separated. We never had divorced parents, something like that. So I've always had two parents that loved me, cared for my company, always supported us, and been there for me whenever I needed them the most. When I turned 18, my parents moved us to El Paso when we were about 16 years old. I was born and raised Chicago, moved out to the suburbs of Chicago. I've been a city boy 90% of my life. When I was 16, I moved to El Paso, Texas with them, and of course I decided to take my own path and my own way of life, and I moved back to Chicago with my sister. When I told my parents growing up as a kid, everyone was having their ears pierced, and I'm like, hey mom, can I get my ears pierced? And of course, the answer is no. So I told her, what about when I'm 18, I'm living on my own in Chicago? And she's like, no. And so I moved to Chicago, and I'm like, how's she gonna stop me? How can she stop me from piercing my ears? And when I called my mother, out of respect, because I love my mother, I'm like, hey mom, I'm gonna get my ears pierced, what do you think? And she's like, no, son, women get their ears pierced, men get tattoos. And I told her, mom, you better keep that promise. Are you 100% sure that's true? Because I promise I'll never pierce my ears if you keep that true. And she said, yeah, I promise you 100%. Women get their ears pierced, men get tattoos. That's how the world works. And I'm like, okay, you said so yourself. So, the exact same day, I went to get my very first tattoo on my wrist. For all my anime fans, all my anime nerds out there, you definitely know what this is. If not, I'll explain those in the tattoo stories right now. But yeah, that's pretty much how I started my first tattoo when I was 18 years old. My mom said no pierced ears, and as you guys can tell, no pierced ears. So thanks, mom. This all started because of you. So I don't want to hear it later on saying that you got tattoos and blah 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 blah, because you said it, and I've kept my promise. So, but no, my parents are extremely supportive. At first, of course, they were kind of freaked out, thinking that it was gang related. Growing up in Chicago, they know about gangs. They pushed us to the suburbs to avoid the gangs, and of course, the gang always follows. But my parents have always been supportive. Has always been part of me. None of my tattoos are gang related because I was never that kind of person. I was always the nerd. I was always the kid getting bullied. I was always the kid that wasn't fit for that world. I was fit to live my own life, live my own story. And now that I'm a full-grown adult, I do live my life. I do live my story, and they're told through my tattoos. And I have many more to go, of course, like I said, for future planning. And but yeah, that's how my parents get involved in my tattoo stories, and most of them represented through my tattoos. And much love to my parents for being supportive. I get more tattoos constantly, and they're always backing me up whenever I want to get a tattoo, as long as I love it, as long as I care for it, as long as I can keep on providing for me and my family. They are 100% supportive all the way. Number 5, that happens a lot as well, is that it costs a lot. I always say quality over quantity. I'd rather pay $200, $300, $400, $500 for a tattoo. I think that's the most expensive I've ever paid for a tattoo. I'd rather pay about $500 for a tattoo that's good than go to some Joe Schmo at someone's house, or I have a friend that does tattoos, or hey, I got a tattoo machine, how about we do one, I'll give it to you for free, or $10 or something like that. I'd rather pay the quality of a $200, $300 tattoo at a shop or someone well known in the world than pay $10 or even get a free tattoo. I know there's like tattoo artists that do it for charity. I understand that, and I will do that. But just a random Joe Schmo that you know from down the block, I personally would never go to one. I would pay for quality over quantity any day. I've paid for every tattoo at a shop. You could donate blood as well if you get your tattoos at a shop, because as long as you got it at a shop, you can still donate blood, which I'm a big fan of donation. So as long as you get them at shops, they don't really care. You can donate blood still, which a lot of people have that question as well, is can you donate blood? And yes, as long as they're at a shop, you can definitely donate blood. So they cost money. They cost a pretty penny sometimes. But they're totally worth it as long as you care and love your tattoo and take care of it. Of course, it's not just getting the tattoo, it's taking care of it after. It does cost money, but it's totally worth it to have a beautiful piece of art on your body. Alright, you guys, after that quick Q&A, now we're gonna get to the fun part. Alright, the tattoos. So to get started talking about my tattoos, I'm just gonna tell you guys quick mini origin to each tattoo, how it started, how I got them, and just stuff like that, what they mean to me and represent. So to get this started with, Then we're gonna talk about my first tattoo. This one right there. That first tattoo was actually my origin story of why I got tattoos. Pretty much, the long story short is, I told my mom when I turned 18 years old, Mom, can I get my ears pierced? She said, girls get their ears pierced, guys get tattoos. And long story short, thanks Mom, let's go to tattoo number 2, which would be my daughter's name. This is my daughter's name. Her name's Saline, and she means the world to me. Enough to get her name tattooed on me, of course. She's my angel, and I love her with all my life. I got it tattooed right here because my father-in-law has his daughter's names tattooed on his wrist. When I told him, what's the story of your tattoo? He pretty much said it's whenever he's working with his hands, he looks down and sees his daughter's names and knows that when he's working with his hands, he's there to provide for someone else, not just himself. And I thought that was really cool, and it represents the world to me because I love working with my hands. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. So that having my daughter's name there as well, it means the world to me. I also have little crosses on each side of her name, just to represent as well that God's protecting her. Even I'm providing for her, I can't be next to her all the time, but knowing that God's there to protect her when I'm not there or present, at least I can leave my faith knowing that she's still protected. So that's the origin of tattoo number 2. Tattoo number 3 is going to be the bigger tattoos now. We'll be talking about pretty much this piece of the half sleeve right now. So tattoo number 3 is kind of like the front of this part of the half sleeve, you guys. The front part of this half sleeve, it's a diabetes ribbon with a geometric tattoo around it. It kind of represents a symbolism of me and things that happen in my life. The geometric tattoo is supposed to be like a circuit board to represent my geekiness, my technology side, and also my little nerdiness as well. Inside here is the little logo of a geometric fox, so you guys can see the ears and the nose and the face. It's supposed to represent a geometric fox from the game Watch Dogs 2, which is a Chicago-based game from Ubisoft. If you guys never played it, check out some gameplay of it. It's really fun, super cool game. Also to represent my nerdiness, the triangle, square, circle, X that you see here. That represents my PlayStation 4, the little controllers, the buttons on the controller, just to represent once again my nerdiness. That's just a little something that I got for myself. Talking about this tattoo here, you guys will see a diabetes awareness ribbon and a rose, a magenta rose. That represents my mother and my father. My father's a type 1 diabetic. Unfortunately, there's no cure for it, but it represents, you know, awareness. Take care of yourself. So big tattoo number 6 will be represented in this giant Day of the Dead tattoo. It was the tattoo that took me the longest to design. All my tattoos are self-designed by myself. It takes me months sometimes it takes me weeks, but mostly the big pieces, of course, they take me months. I draw all my tattoos. I contact my artist. His name is Sean Kim. He works currently at the Mad Hatter in Elgin. I'll link him down below with Facebook and a bunch of other stuff that he does, just to give him his credit, because this is my main artist and he's the one that does most of my work. And I just want to credit him for all the great work that he does. As you guys can start seeing here, this first tattoo piece from the whole half sleeve is a paw. This paw represents my dog Blackie. He passed away of cancer of his left paw a couple years ago. He was my best friend and he was one of the greatest dogs I've ever known in my life. Just to have a little piece of him with me at all times because he meant the world to me growing up as a kid. I got a little paw tattooed of him to represent my best friend, my dog. The whole piece itself is of course a Day of the Dead Mexican piece. I am Mexican, I am Hispanic, and it represents my culture, my religion, my people, and me in total. Day of the Dead skull is celebrated in Dia de los Muertos, aka Day of the Dead in Mexico, and it represents me. This is supposed to represent me, my life, my struggles, my losses, my wins. I get the rose, not because every tattoo has to have a rose. The rose is my birth flower. I'm born in June. So a birth flower is a rose. So of course I would get a rose tattoo, represents life, my life. And then of course the skull represents death. Hispanics don't see death as a bad thing. We see it as our next chapter in the afterlife. When you die, we don't believe in just you go on the ground and you never see anything again. We believe in heaven, we believe in hell, we believe in doing good in life and all that stuff as well. As you can see on my tattoo, I have a cross and crown of thorns just to represent my religion. Knowing that Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for us and knowing that this is my religion, this is who I am. I was raised this way and I was able to choose my own faith when I was an adult, and I kept that faith because I truly found my soul purpose and answers in the Bible with Jesus and God himself. I truly believe in that, and that's, I mean, I tattoo it all over my body to represent it, and there's nothing I'm ashamed of to ever say that I am a Christian, that I am a believer of Christ, and that's my belief in my religion. But yeah, so the next piece as well is, as you can see, it's going to represent the city that I was born in, Chicago, one of the best cities in the world. This is a Chicago flag with a Chicago skyline in the eyes. That was an idea of mine as well, to put on there, just to always represent that seeing my city is my vision. I've always envisioned myself being back in my city, no matter where I may move, no matter what I may do. My city always comes first, and I will love my city till the day I die, because it took care of my family and I. Being a first generation American, Chicago was the city that welcomed us with open arms. Another piece you guys can see here will be the LA, Los Angeles, representing my godfather, who I lost when I was about 13 years old. He meant the world to me. He was there for every birthday. He called me for Christmas. He would give me those popcorn tins for every single Christmas and stuff. It was just nice to have a gesture like that. He didn't have to buy me anything. He didn't have to be there. He wasn't blood related. He was just my godfather. But he meant the world to me because he was there for me when I needed him. He would always call. He would always just represent, you know, a good godfather. And I appreciate him so much. And when I lost him, it was a tragic loss. He died of lung failure because he was a smoker. And for that reason, I personally don't smoke, because I would hate to lose my family due to those issues as well. Personal choices, but that's my personal choice. So that's why I got the little Los Angeles tattoo there. In the back here, you guys can see a little orchid there, an orchid flower. At the time, I had a girlfriend who is now my wife, so it worked out, as you guys can see. I got an orchid for her, and she loved that flower with a life. It was a beautiful flower. She's never seen one in her life. So I bought her one, this exact color, like purple with blue tint on it, and she fell in love with it, and it always represented her. So I always tattoo in the back of the skull, representing that she's always in the back of my mind. So if something ever happens, she's always in the back of my mind, always thinking of her, for now till forever. I mean, I married her, I am promised to her for life, and I mean, this is a way to represent her, for the tattoo way, at least. Right here, you guys will see a swallow. The swallow in the tattoo tradition is represented by travel. It's represented by travel by meaning that you've traveled the world, you've gone out of your safe zone, but you always come back home. I mean, I've traveled to the countries from the South Coast to the East Coast, to the West Coast, to Mexico, and all the others, a bunch of other states as well. But I always return home, and I always plan on returning home, which, as I said before, my home is Chicago, and I always plan on coming back home one day. And of course, last but especially not least, I have a Mickey Mouse with an M in it. I lost a cousin of mine, a family member, when I was fairly young. My first funeral ever, I'm pretty sure I was like at least 4 years old. I remember it perfectly. A small casket from my cousin that passed away. His name was Mikey. And it was my first funeral. It's the first impact of loss that I had in my life. And then the M in it as well. That was my uncle who took that death as well, pretty serious, and recently also passed away, unfortunately. This is more like a memorial piece for family members that passed away. Just as, like we say, we don't get sad at death, we celebrate death, because it's another chapter of life in the afterlife with God, of course, in heaven. So his name was Manuel, and he got me into my techness, into my geekiness, into my video games, and into all that fun stuff. So that's a little memorial piece for them. For my young cousin, my first funeral, and my uncle that really got me to become who I am. And, you know, in Chicago with all the gangs and stuff, he was able to push away from that and then say, hey, this is called a video game. Instead of going outside hanging out with those guys, play with me, let's play some video games. And it was just fun, just Mortal Kombat and games and stuff like that were always something that came into my life. So I wanted, that's a little piece of tattoo to represent him. Just a big thanks to my family and everyone for supporting me and being there for my tattoos and being there for me. And I mean, it's an honor to tattoo myself with them and just friends and family and stuff like that. It's an honor to have all these tattoos. Thanks to my artists, thanks to my family, thanks to my friends, thanks to my everything. But that's pretty much it, you guys. That was just a quick Q&A, including my tattoo origin. If you guys have any more questions at all about tattoos, or my tattoos, about tattoos itself, or anything, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. Make sure to like this video to see if you guys want any more of these. I have many more stories to tell, many more cool vlogs coming up as well. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys next time.